Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Falling in Love with Your Mind. I am super excited about our discussion today as mental health is not something that we hear men talk about a whole lot. In fact, statistics says that nearly 1 in 10 men experience depression and anxiety in their lifetime. However, nearly less than half of that actually receive treatment. Today, I thank these amazing men for joining me just to start the conversation regarding mental health and attempt to reduce the stigma in our communities. While you are welcome to try any intervention or healthy coping skills that these gentlemen may share, we are in no way providing advice. I will provide links for resources and tag local providers in the comments after this if you would like to reach out to any of them. If you or anyone you know may be experiencing any suicidal ideations, please contact 988-911 or go to your nearest emergency room. And if anything that we talk about today triggers you, please take care of yourself and take a step away. And now that the housekeeping items are out of the way, I'm going to let these men introduce themselves before we dive into our first question. Devontae.
Yes, my name is Devontae Ballard. I am 25 years old, and I am a qualified mental health professional.
My name is Patrick Gibson. I'm a local photographer and model here in Danville, and I take pictures.
I'm Delano McCain. I am an LCSWA. I work in the mental health field in Greensboro, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. I'm also a salon owner, been a salon owner for about 10 years, and I am a new author of A Son's Journey Through Grief, Faith, and Becoming.
My name is Julian Vaughn. I serve as an elder at Truth and Worship Outreach Ministries here in the city of Danville. I am 25 years old, and I am elated to be able to sit on this panel and share with you all this afternoon.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. I handpicked each of these individuals, either me or my team, and I'm just excited to hear what they have to share. The first question that we have is, what does mental health mean to you? And I'm going to ask Patrick to start us off.
Put me on the spot. Yeah, so mental health to me personally is just where I'm at, right? What am I feeling? I also try not to tie in my business with my mental health, but depending on how that's going also affects my mood, my personality, all that stuff. Really, it's just where am I at? What am I feeling? And a lot of times I feel like I need to slow down because I'm thinking too far ahead, and that really, really gets me. So I'm trying to do better about that. But yeah, mental health just means where am I at?
Yeah, I like that as well. Julian, would you like to share?
Sure. So to me, I would define it as just holistic feeling. How things affect me, how things trigger me, my window of tolerance, the whole nine. And I think that a lot of times we really don't we don't slow down enough to really think about how things are affecting our mental, especially in church, because the whole thing is, we sanctify things and we sometimes spiritualize common things in a way that we don't ever really think about, like, how are you feeling? Like, beyond having a spiritual experience, where's your mental, where's your holistic well-being? So that's what it means to me, just a holistic well-being.
Yeah, I like that y'all sharing slowing down, because I never imagined that when you became an adult, life moved so fast. And Devontae, would you like to share?
Yes, pretty much like Julian said, slowing down, you be caught up in the moment, just living. You don't never take time for yourself sometimes, because it's times that I didn't look back at something that had happened and be like, wow, I didn't even realize I was going through that until you sit down and actually think. So mental health to me is just, like you said, how you feeling. And also, I feel like it's a continuous process, how you function, handle things every day, continue to improve and things like that. And it ain't whether it's good and bad, you just got to know how to maintain and cope in positive ways.
I definitely like what you said when you said like slowing down. One thing that mental health means to me is being stable mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I use stable because, every day is not going to be straight lines, right? We're going to have some ups, we're going to have some downs. And it takes a lot when you're down to get back up, right? And so you got to know when you're down, you got to reach for help. And I think that's what we do as men. We don't reach for help. We hide ourselves, right? And we go into silence. And so these things is created from when we were little boys, right? We always had to be the strong man. And so even as little boys, we grow up as men not knowing how to be vulnerable, right? So I would definitely say being stable physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Thank you for sharing. And that actually leads me into the next question. So how do you guys maintain stability? What are you doing when you realize that you're having too many low days to get yourself back to that baseline or even to have some higher days? And Delana, you can let us know since you led us into that question.
Okay, so one thing that I would like to say is I always felt like that I've been stable. I feel like that I can regulate my emotions. I know how to count, right? I know how to do my breathing. I know how to do those things. I feel like I knew how to do those things before. But I think my first introduction to therapy when I was married, and we went to marriage counseling. And the therapist made me aware of some things that I had to go back to my childhood and identify with, right? And so when I did that, I learned how to start managing what I was going through in the moment. And so I'm a very optimistic type of person, not pessimistic. I'm very optimistic. So when I look at the glass, and this is something that I teach my clients as well, when you look at the glass can be halfway. And how you see the glass is how you see your life, right? So you can either see that glass being half full or you can see that glass being half emptied. And so I always look at the glass as being half full because I'm expecting something. I'm expecting a change. I'm expecting growth. I'm expecting some things. So that's how I look at life. And any situation that comes, even with the passing of my mom, it hurt. It hurt. And I own my grief. I own my feelings. I own my emotions. However, I would not project that on someone else. Right? I'm going to take care of me. So I went to therapy. The therapist went to therapy. Right? So I was glad for that because it led me to writing my book. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that just kind of brings me back full circle is my God and my wife. I mean, without them, I definitely would not be the person that I know today, or that I am today. If you would have known me 3 years ago, completely different person. And as far as, going back to what you were saying, a lot of men are raised, not to cry, not to show emotion. I was actually raised the opposite. So I was raised to show vulnerability. And I mean, once I hit high school, I just tried to be like a man, right? And not care about any of that. But in my adult life, I love to feel the emotion. I love to, my wife, she struggles with depression, and I've always told her, I'm like, feel it and then get through it. Never, pop a pill and say, oh, this is gonna fight this, it's gonna fix this. No, feel it, feel that grief, if a family member dies, feel it. And I mean, don't wallow in it, but, eventually you'll get out of it. But yeah, if I'm ever low or anything like that, because just being in the public eye, with my business and I'm always doing something, I don't show the bad stuff. I've got a few bad things happening in my life right now, and I don't talk about it. I don't put that on Facebook. It's always a good vibe. So it's and that's hard to bottle up because I feel like if I do talk to somebody, everybody knows everybody with the circle that I'm in. So really, it does come back to God and my wife. Yeah.
I would say for me, I try to control what I can control. So if it's out of my control, I don't try to think about it too much. And the old me would brush things off, but now I would go talk to one of my friends, or I could talk to my brother or my dad or my mom. So like I said, I would I can control. I try to control what I can control, and then whatever out of my control, I just leave it to God for real.
So I think that we all share the same sentiments. Anyways, back to what I was saying. For me, just having that company, you know, the Bible talks about a multitude of counsel, just having that company, because sometimes we can look at something and see it from one worldview, and that worldview is going to always be as extreme as it possibly can. And so just having people that can kind of sober you up and be like you said, you know, it's not half empty, it's half full. Like, I see the optimism in this, having that company around you, and then the ability to also be able to have a healthy outlet, something that you can do, or somewhere you can go, somebody that you can be around, so that you're not always pressured to the conflict of the moment. I think that's very important in my life, because the blessing is that at my age, I mean, the whole mental awareness journey is just at its start for me. Because, I mean, most of us, when we grow up, especially my parents were older parents, and I thank God for my parents, but they were older, so a lot of the things that you see people expressing now, you know, they be like, well, just get over it, it's not that big of a deal, it's not the end of the world, it's off, so on and so forth, but really just dealing with it, tapping into the emotions that I feel, and being able to process. I heard somebody say, like, you know, really dealing with the emotions and feeling them is very important, because we often suppress, and then what we suppress, we be like, we're good because it's suppressed, but suppression is not the same as dealing with the actual emotions or feelings themselves. And so just having that space and that healthy outlet to be able to process emotions is what, you know.
Thank y'all for sharing. I always tell people you can suppress if you want to, but it's gonna come back up eventually. It's gonna show its face. But y'all share some great points from being raised in different households. You know, who raised you plays a big role in how you deal with your mental health. And in the Black community, I don't hear too many dads say, feel your feelings, express them to me, let me know how you feel. So it does cause men to grow up bottling things up and not really expressing themselves. But I can say that I'm seeing the shift, I'm seeing the change. I think our community is growing in that way. But y'all mentioned the glass is half full and being able to see it. So I want to know, how are you able to make yourself see the glass is half full? Because a lot of people see it the opposite way. And I think that causes a lot of chasing, because if the glass is half to the top, and never stop. But if the glass is half full, I can take a couple of breaks along the way and take care of myself. So how are you changing your perspective to see that?
I think it's all in what you put out into the universe, manifesting. I feel like 50% of my career so far, I have manifested. I've put that energy into it. But also, I have done the hard work. I've had to, you know, do things that I didn't want to do early morning. You know, maybe I wasn't in the best mood. Whatever it be, I had to go out there and I had to get it done. So, you know, it's just like with God, you can pray and he's going to hear you. But if you physically need to do something, you need to do it. So that's how I feel about it.
I would like to add to that. One thing that I decided to do in my life is to always look at the positive side of things, right? And a lot of times we are controlled off of our feelings and our emotions, and our feelings and our emotions, we can own those feelings and emotions, right? However, they don't tell the truth. They only tell the truth in the moment. And so I always tell people, even when I'm doing therapy, I always say, if you start journaling and you go back and you look at some of the things that upset you, you'll be like, that don't even bother me anymore. But a lot of times we bottle things inside of us, right? And it ended up coming up because, like you said, if you don't deal with it, it will deal with you, right? And one thing that I've learned in this life is to always be optimistic, always speak what I want, right? Even when I'm doing family therapy, I always tell families, like, speak what you want, not your feelings and your emotions, because they are only your feelings and your emotions. And what we try to do is force feed people our feelings and our emotions, and we can't do that because how you see things may not be how I see things, right? And so to maintain my glass being half full, I make sure I do the work. Like you said, you got to do the work. And in mental health, it's a journey. It's not a marathon. It's not a race. It's a journey. You'll be doing this for the rest of your life, keeping it stable, keeping your mental health stable, okay? And I also want to add that there's a difference between mental health and mental illness, right? We all have mental health. Mental illness comes when your mental health is challenged and you cannot move past your situation or your problem, and then it becomes a diagnosis, which is mental illness. So we have to know the difference between those two, okay?
So I was reading this book a little while ago. It's called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And the author says, smart people are always learning, but wise people are always unlearning. And one of the fastest ways to see a shift in perspective is to unlearn the behavior that binds you to a negative perspective in the first place. And me instituting that in my own life is going back and looking at some of the areas in my past where I've like crashed out and like, what can I do differently so that I don't keep going through the same or experiencing the same emotions. And so when I think about it, like, my job is pretty consistent. I do the same thing every day, which I work in finance, but I do the same thing every day. But what I always keep in the back of my mental is like, okay, this day ends at 5 o'clock. And then, if you take it 1 hour at a time, and then 1 day at a time, and then 1 week at a time, and then 1 month at a time, before you realize it, you have all of this time frame that you have already conquered. But if you look at it as, oh, we got a whole year to go through, then it's going to seem like something you can't get through. But if you just take it 1 day, 1 step at a time, then you really can like make some strides towards having the right perspective, because nothing lasts forever. And I have embraced that. I think I've embraced that more now than I ever have in my life, because just looking at some of the things that are going on in the world and even in my personal life, that keeps me going. Like, nothing is forever. It's only temporary space, And I think sometimes in our minds we get fixated on believing that our current circumstance will always be, because it's what we're used to. But realizing that, like, this isn't, I'm not going to always be in this space. Like, financially, I won't always have the same financial barriers that I have now, because as time goes on, you will see increase, hopefully, And so that's how I maintain my perspective, is to unlearn and to kind of see, like, there's another perspective. A lot of people don't even think about, like, the alternate perspectives that are on, because everything that we look at, there's always another side to it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, it's always going to be another side to it. And so that's how I maintain seeing the glass half full.
Yeah. I'm learning to appreciate the season and to take it 1 day at a time, because I would try to rush through anything in life, but the seasons are important and they don't last forever. What you got for us, Vontae?
Just to pretty much piggyback on what Julian and Delano said. Like he said, he used to crash out. I wouldn't per se I crashed out, because I'm more like a chill, laid back person. But the unlearning part, like years ago, if somebody would come to me with certain problems, I would, like he said, be like, just get over it. It ain't that serious. It's not that deep. But then I learned you have to put other people's feelings into consideration. What may not be serious to you is serious to them. So you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes and be like, okay, I can understand why you're feeling that way. And then, the glass half full type of thing, I just look at the positive, like, okay, I didn't made it this far. There's no need of going back. it's going to be hard regardless. So you might as well just keep going and get to the finish line. So that's pretty much my take on the glass half full.
That's a word for sure. It's going to be hard regardless, y'all. That's something I learned coming to the wheel. Life's going to be hard. I don't know why I thought life was going to be easy, but it's not. Ever. Ever. Our next question is, what is it like to take on the masculine responsibility of caring for others? And we have two dads. Let's start there. One of you guys.
So we can get a little deep here, I guess. I'm 28 years old. I became a dad at 19, and we're all still together. And really since high school, I'd struggled with alcohol addiction. And about 3 years ago, 3 years in June 26, I'll be 3 years sober. And, I did it, I don't want to say by myself, but I never went to a program or anything like that, just cold turkey, I guess. And really, I feel like, I've always been a dad. I've always been like the man of the household. I was a functioning alcoholic. Bills were paid, all that stuff, but it was just bad at home. And I really feel like I stepped into the masculine head of the household role 3 years ago when I did get sober. And I feel like I'm a lot more respected now. They listen to me. We started going back to church because during my entire addiction, I would consider myself not atheist, agnostic. I was raised Christian, but just went to GW, started partying, fell out of love with it, right? We didn't go to church anymore. So, but now we found a church and all that, and I definitely do think God is the one that put it in me to become sober. So, yeah, I feel like I'm new to being the head of the household almost and running things. And it really does take faith. I mean, Lindsay will look at me and just be like, all right, what are we doing? What's this month looking like? And she works her job as well. My goal for her is to be a stay-at-home mom, but she doesn't want that. She's independent, But yeah, I feel like I'm new to it. So I'm excited to hear everybody else's perspective on it.
I would say I feel like that the role has been fictitious. I think it puts a lot of weight on men when you say a masculine role because men and women have masculine and feminine qualities, right? And I think, and I was talking to someone earlier about this, is one of my goals is to have a brave space for men to be able to come and gather and feel like they can be vulnerable. They can let their head down, right? I feel like as a man, we have been taught to be Superman all of our life, right? And we want to be Clark Kent sometimes. We want to sometimes take our cape off. And we're not allowed to take our cape off without being judged. And our spouses judge us, our friends judge us, our family judge us, especially if they depend on us a lot. And so one thing that I've learned how to do is to be Clark. I learned how to be him. I've learned how to take my cape off and be secure in Delano, right? Because I don't want to always show up hard because I can learn from my kid, you can learn from your spouse, you can learn from your friends, you can learn from other people. And I want to be able to learn from people as well and not always come having to be the one with the strength. However, I grew up in a family where I didn't see what masculinity was from a father's perspective, right? And so I created my own narrative with kids. And so when I created that, I can remember God telling me, he said that he didn't give me kids for me to be in control of them. He gave me children so that I can be in charge of them. And he said to be in control is to tell them what to do, when to do, and how to do it, right? But he said to be in charge is to just simply be the example. And so whatever I want minds to do, I'm going to be the example. I can't walk around and complain about what I don't have when I'm trying to force them to speak positive about their own life, right? So that's masculine energy to me, right? And you can show up as a woman with that type of masculine energy, but that's the type of energy that I bring into my household. Even now raising my nephew, I tell him, like, I'm going to show you because I want you to follow the example, right? I don't want to tell you to do something that I'm not willing to do, to have of my own, okay? So I try to be that. That's what masculine energy is to me.
I didn't know that women could have, masculinity until I went through marriage counseling. And let me tell you, I was very, very masculine. And so now I'm learning to tone it down and be a little more feminine, and I'm pretty sure my man appreciates it. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective, because masculinity does not look the same for everybody. You got something, Julian? And I know that you guys, you may not have children, but, you are still men. And you take care of others, even if they're not your children. I know guys take care of their moms a whole lot and their sisters, girlfriends. So tell me what that looks like for you.
So I have found in my life that oftentimes I find myself leading in places where I never asked to, or having to lead in places where I've never, looked for like leadership or wanted to or anything. And that can be a challenge in and of itself. But bearing that is, and we've heard it said so many times tonight, I think that you definitely need to know the Lord. If you're going to accomplish anything in the earth, you definitely need to know the Lord. And when people have an example before them of the right way to go or the right thing to do, then it's hard for them to deviate from that example. Examples have this kind of influence that just goes out, and as people see it, and they see that when you're consistent and what you're doing is working, they'll just follow right behind you. And that can be good or bad. It depends on the type of influence that you are to people. Because even in my friend circle, some of my friends, they're saved, they're in the church, but they still be out here doing whatever they want to do. And I don't wear holiness as like a badge of honor or like, holier than thou, but I really do try to live so that when they look at me, they can be like, okay, we have an example of what it means to walk this thing out with God. I think that is definitely a part of being masculine, is that you need to have a fear of the Lord, because a lot of men especially, they feel like, well, we don't have to answer to nobody. Well, you do have to answer to somebody. And so just keeping that altar kind of keeps you humble, that you need to have a fear of the Lord. So that's my perspective there.
I hadn't considered, that being a question pertaining to friendship, but y'all do, have to carry that in your friendships as well. So thank you for sharing that perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad he brought up the friendship part, because if you know me and my friends, we're always playing. But at the end of the day, I tell them from time to time, I know we play a lot, but if y'all ever need somebody to talk to, I'm always here on a serious note. Because I don't have kids like you said, but I work with kids. And I feel like some of them will really, kids watch what you do. They do what you want to do, and, they just learn them certain behaviors. So I try to set the example for the kids that I work with, even though, like you said, I don't have kids and I got nephews. So I try to set an example for them. So, all throughout the years in school, your teachers would tell you, somebody's always watching, so watch what you do. So I try to, even when nobody's watching me, I try to do the right thing. And, every day is a process. I don't always do the right thing, but for the most part, I try to. So, yeah.
So one thing that I would definitely say, just working in the school system, I don't work in the school system, but I do therapy in the school system. One thing that I see with children, right? I see where parents have made them feel like they have lived this perfect life, right? I think you have to make yourself approachable. You have to make yourself available. And you also have to make yourself relatable, right? And I think that's what we have to be able to be to everybody. We have to, the word says, be all things to all men that you may win some. So God already telling me that I'm not going to get everybody, right? But I'm going to get somebody. But he's telling me to be all things, right? So I can't always show them the good. I have to show them the bad because nothing in this world, and this is just law, nothing in this world exists without its opposite. You don't know what it is for good unless you had bad, right? You don't know what it is to walk in the straight and narrow unless you was in the crooked, okay? So we have to make sure that we have a balance. And I think that's one of our issues as men. We don't have a balance, right? We want to be all the way up there or we want to be all the way down here, right? Because we don't know what it feels like to be in the middle, because to be in the middle, it makes us think. But this is where transition happens, is in the middle. And you can either go up or you can go down, right? So it makes you think as a man. So that's something I say as men we have to think about, okay?
Yeah, and like you said, I work in the school system with the kids, and they'll say things to me when they get in trouble, like, Mr. Ballard, I know you work and help me, so I know you always got good grades in school. I know you was always good. I said, no, I was bad. I got bad grades, so I understand your frustrations. Or when they get mad, I be like, it's okay to be mad, but this how you help be mad. You have to think before you speak. You can't just act quick. So you got to sit back and think. I try to tell them that. I be like, yeah, I wasn't always good. I done went home and got whoopings and all that. Y'all think I done been good all my life? Nope.
I was wondering, how you guys create that safe space for, in talking about this role, your children, per se, to come and talk to you about what they have going on. And I think you said it best, showing them, the good and the bad, and letting them know that they do not have to be perfect, because I know a lot of children don't tell my mama, I'm not talking to my mama, they won't tell them the real that's going on. So I guess, what would you say to parents to help them, create their relationship with their children or build that trust? And it's, we can start small. We can't give them, a whole list of things, but what would be that first step that you could say to them to help build a relationship with their children?
Be open and honest. Be open and honest. I think as parents, we teach our children how to lie, right? Because we lie to them. And when we lie to them, we teach them how to do it, right? They just do it a little more cunning, a little more slick, because it's more stuff out there for it's more stuff out there for them to see than it was for us to see, and of course, generationally. But I did an experiment before, and with these teachers. And so what I did, I asked the teachers, how did they view the generation? And so what the teachers was able to do, they were able, and I told them, I said, if you view this generation as good, I want you to go over here. If you view them, are they okay? I want you to stay in the middle. If you view them as being bad, I want you to go to the right. And so a lot of the teachers was at the right? So one thing I wanted to make them aware of is how you view them is how you would teach them. And so we have to be very careful with how we view people, how we view their ideas, right? And you ready to walk into the field of diagnosing and all that type of stuff, you have to deal with your own self. Because if you don't deal with yourself, I promise you, someone will come up and they will be dealing with the same issue that you suppress, and it will trigger you. And then you would treat them how you treat yourself. And one thing that I know, that every issue that someone has comes with the why. And I think even in the mental health field, we are taught to do it, but a lot of therapists don't do it. They go off of their feelings and their emotions, right? And so that's how they begin to talk. But I always ask why? Why? I keep asking why. If you say one thing, I'd be like, so why you think that? Because everything starts with the why. Every issue. And so even in your own life, you got to ask yourself, why do I do that? Why do I think like that? Why do I like this, right? I could get into a whole lot of things. I don't want to keep on going. But even when it comes to like children, and this is for parents, you have to be honest with when you conceive that child. And I take it back to the word when John the Baptist was getting ready to baptize, when he was baptizing, and Jesus was at the top of the hill. He seen Jesus, and he said, I know him. He didn't know him because he physically saw him. It was when Elizabeth and Mary interacted with each other. It was that connection. So what goes on in the womb, you would see it when it come out the womb. It is controlled by those feelings and those emotions that you raised them inside of that womb. So mothers need to go and say, how did I feel when I knew that I was pregnant with this child? What I went through while I was pregnant with this child, because that's what they respond to, okay?
I will say that I think emotional intelligence is critical. And I would say that because, like I said, my parents were, I don't want to keep saying older, but I'm 25, my mom is 62. Yeah. So, they grew up, So, but one of the things that I will say, though, is that just that emotional intelligence aspect of listening to hear, not to respond. Don't just listen to what somebody is saying so that you can give a response, and the response is all, well, this is what I think, this is how I feel, this is how I should see it. But hear the actual issue, hear what's going on, hear the intent of the heart, and then from that, create a basis of response. Or if you don't have a response, just be like, well, that's just something we got to pray on. That's very important, because I think that especially dealing, and it's not everybody, but dealing with older generations, a lot of times when you share things with them, their first instinct is to minimize the impact of it to you, and to be like, well, if you think that's something, and then they just go on the deep end about their experiences and different things like that, and it all ends the same. Well, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. You just have to tough it out. But if I had a child, I believe that I would always leave the space open for them to choose. Well, not choose in certain things, but like, especially when it comes to like Christianity, serving the Lord, I wouldn't force it down their throat, but I would give them the ability to choose or to discern. Now I teach the word and I tell them what's right and what's wrong, but as far as everything else, I would give them that liberty to choose, and I would hear what they are saying, hear how they are feeling, so that they wouldn't feel, because a lot of suppression comes from, I think it was Dr. King that said writing is the voice of the unheard. That a lot of suppression that we see in our demographic is the result of years of systematic silence, that we've just, we just ignored everything that we felt. And so that's why a lot of people, especially young men, they have a whole bunch of rage. They're just as mad as the world, mad for no reason. I mean, when you see them, they're just so mad. It's because for years it's just been told, be quiet, don't say nothing, move on. So that's why they fight. That's why they're always upset, because, I mean, it's just rage. And so if we ever have the opportunity to share, you'll know that what I'm experiencing is directly connected to how I feel, and has been suppressed for so many years, it's never been talked about.
I love how you discuss the intent of someone's heart, because you have to be able to discern that, especially when you're dealing with children who have not been taught how to communicate. Or adults. Adults are not taught how to communicate either. We kind of learn as we get older if we want to. And a lot of people don't, or don't have the opportunity to. So I love that. I do want to know, how do you guys meet your own needs? Because y'all have a lot to juggle. Y'all are working, going to school, being a parent, being a minister. That's a whole lot of helping others. So I want to know, how do you make time to take care of yourself? But before we get into it, I do want to let the audience know to please drop your questions, because we're going to take a few as we have time in the after they finish answering this question. So who would like to go first?
I would say for me, meeting my own needs is once I leave work at work. So like once I clock out, anything about work, I don't even think about it. So like I said, I leave work at work, and I'm currently in school. So I just plan everything out, make sure I do things through the week, and then on the weekends, it's me. It's all about me. So yeah.
So I would probably say opposite of that. If a client hits me up at 2 a.m., I'm on my phone. And it's really, really hard to separate the two. And I've been on such a grind to build, and now I feel like I am finally stable, which is great. I'm trying to learn how to slow that down, separate a work-life balance, do things for myself that maybe not even necessarily make me money, but creatively feeds me as an artist so I don't fall out of love with what I do. So yeah, I'm still working on it. Because I always grew up playing video games. That was like my #1 hobby, and now, like maybe last year I didn't do it as much, but now I feel like I've made time for myself to do that. Now we are entering busy season, so I have no idea how this month's going to go. But also even like the modeling side of it, that was never supposed to be a thing to make money or whatever. It was just something fun that I got roped into from being a photographer, and I really, really, really enjoy that, and I don't think I would ever get tired of that.
And you're really good at it too. You look amazing.
I appreciate it. But yeah, also family time as well. I think that's very important. As men, a lot of times you want to get off, watch a movie, drink a beer, whatever you want to do, and you're not spending time with your family. Like, take your kids to the park, go, listen to them, listen to what they want to do, because typically whatever feeds them feeds you as well. So I'd say probably that.
So one of the things that I have been trying to do more recently is whatever moment I'm in, invest myself completely in that moment. Because a lot of times, like, you can be in church, you can be out eating, you can be anywhere, and physically you're present, but mentally you're still at work. Like you said, you're still at work, you're still thinking about what you have to do next week, but really just like pausing and slowing down and like embracing the moment that I'm in. Like, me and my younger sibling, a lot of times, we're food people. We like to just go and try all different types of restaurants and food places. And so, like, it's nothing for us to go to Greensboro just to try to find somewhere to eat something new that we've never been to before. But, like, even sitting down at the table and just enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying the scenery, like, I'm learning to embrace the moment that I'm in. And I am learning to be deliberate about my devotion. The time I spend with God, the time I spend in the Word, be deliberate about that, because I will find that if I'm deliberate about that, it does help me, and it kind of streams out into everything else. So that's what I would say to that.
If you had to ask me this before July 1st, I probably would say I always do things for myself, right? So my mom passed July 1st, and it shook my world. It took my thinking, everything to a whole nother level, which I said, I was supposed to be going to get my PhD, and I realized, I was like, my brain can't do it. My brain can't do it. So what I started doing, I started journaling. And like I said, I'm putting this book in, but putting a hook in for this book. But it allowed me to write the book. It allowed me, even though I'm still going through the grieving process, it allowed me to meet it head on and not allow it to meet me head on and hurt me and damage me, right? And so now, what I'm doing now, I feel like, and I was telling my sister this because I'm raising my nephew. My mom was raising him, so I'm raising him now. And I had to realize I can't do it for my mom. I have to do it for myself, because if I continue to do it for my mom, I'm going to get burnt out with it and I'm going to get tired. So it got to be something I want to do. So he brings me a lot of joy in the house, because the love that my mom poured into him, it comes out. And I be like, he got that from my mama, And so that is something that I definitely enjoy. But I do want to get back to loving on Delano. I do. And I know that, again, it's a journey. And I know that today is today, but tomorrow can be something totally different. And so I just look forward to whatever increase is going to come, because increase got to come. So whatever increase is going to come, I'm just ready to get my hands open, got my pockets open. Yeah, look, I'm taking hats, I'm taking anything that can fill up space. Okay, so that's how I feel about taking care of me. Yeah.
I commend you, because in the professional world, grief is one topic I don't want to touch because it's a tough journey. It is. But I do see you have your book. So can you tell, I guess, our audience where they can purchase your book if they're on that grief journey?
So my book is on Amazon right now. I've been trying to wait to really bring it out there because the hardcover has not went live yet. Only the ebook and the paperback has went live. So I've just been trying to wait. But it's on Amazon. It's called A Son's Journey Through Grief, Faith, and Becoming. It's pretty much my journey through discovering that grief is love that has nowhere to go. And when I learned that, I learned how I had to articulate it in my thinking, right? So what I realized is that my mom did pass, but she's still here. And so when I began to write the book, the first thing I thought about was my mom taught me everything except for how to live without her. But as I began to read the book, I realized she was teaching me how to live without her. Yeah. So it's like a full circle of understanding. I don't wish this journey on anybody. However, it got to happen. It got to happen. And I know my mom was ready, right? Because in my book, I even write about, like, I wish my dad had died. And I could say that because that's my truth, right? And I think that was one of the hardest chapters to write in the book was to say that because I'm like, well, I don't want to offend anyone. But I never wrote this book to offend anyone. I wrote this book to help people through the journey, to make them understand that this is a journey and it's love that has nowhere to go. So you only have memories and smiles and to be thankful for what you did have, right? And so this is my book. So I'm happy for that.
I'm going to be doing a grief panel before the year is out. So I'm going to ask Delano right now if you can come and co-host with me. Because you definitely are very knowledgeable about it. So I'll be happy to have you for that. Do we have any questions, Daryl? All right. Do we have any questions from the audience before we wrap up? Because I have one more question for the guys before we go.
Yeah, give us some questions, please. Please, please give us some questions. We don't want to sit up here and just look. We want to be able to talk and engage, okay? Come on, give us some questions.
And they are here to help you guys. So ask anything that you want. And if they are not prepared to answer, they will let you guys know. Okay. Well, while we wait, I can ask my final question. I want to know, at your lowest point, what is something you know now that you wish someone could have told you then?
I had it and it went away. Oh, nobody. Nobody's gonna help you unless you help yourself first, for sure. Especially with addiction. I mean, nobody could do it for me. Also, piggybacking off the grief stuff, I've kind of learned to seek discomfort. It makes me feel alive. It makes me, try new things. Like, I hate public speaking, but I'm up here. I've done it maybe 4 times now, a few podcasts and stuff. But every time, I'm less nervous. I get used to it, and I feel like we really hold ourselves back. And another thing that I think holds us back is social media. I mean, that for mental health, that is the worst thing. I mean, at this point, I'd probably classify it as a drug, to be honest. I try to stay off of it as much as I can. Honestly, most of my social media is just other photographers' work, which, great, I guess. But I feel like it just fills us with lies and makes us see, ourselves as ugly, or there's no way that we can obtain, a Lamborghini or whatever's somebody's flexing on there, right? And it just really, really, really brings you down. And at the end of the day, you've got to remember that, but this is like my perspective on it. It's all a business. It's all money making. You know, it has nothing to do with, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you'll never get this. Also, most of it's lies. I've learned working in media myself. Most of social media is it's total lies. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to add in that little social media piece because we never touched on it, and I feel like it is very important, and it's very dystopian, and you can't escape it. And then also going back to the kids, they're being exposed to this stuff, and that's, I mean, I feel like in their generation when they are our age, it's just not going to be good.
We got a question. How do you help others who are hurting when you're hurting yourself?
I would say that helping others when you are helping, what did it say?
How do you help others who are hurting when you're hurting yourself?
Okay. It's times where, as a therapist, it's times where I have clients that come in and they're having issues and they're having problems. And what I have to do is put my stuff to the side if I'm going to give some help. Because if I go in giving help from the perspective of me hurting, then I'm going to shape the moment from my hurt, right? So this is one thing I always tell my clients. I say, hurt people, and heal people, heal people. And so if I'm hurting, I got to move my hurt out the way so that I can help. But I think that the most interesting part of that is a lot of times we move our hurt out the way and never go back to get it. And then 5 years later, it shows up again. And we're trying to figure out, like, how did we get here, right? And that's because we never dealt with it. So anything in life that you do not deal with, it will deal with you. I promise you it will. It'll show up. And then I definitely want to piggyback like off the social media. Of course, social media is a facade, right? I don't think nobody deliberately go on social media to post their worst pictures or their worst moments or their worst ideas. If they posted something worse, they're looking for sympathy and empathy, right? However, when it comes to children, I feel that when we went in COVID, when COVID happened, it pretty much stagnated our social life, like being able to interact with people. And so they learn how to interact through social media. And so that's why it's so heightened, because we still haven't gotten back to the point where we know how to interact with people. We know how to interact with people's words, not with people. So I don't think it's going to be bad. I think if we keep the same energy, we're going to make it bad. The word says that this generation is corrupt from the previous generation. So it is nothing that is going on right now that we can't change, but we have to change this generation. We have to show up. I can remember, and this is no bashing to no church, but I can remember when churches used to say that Facebook was the devil. Until when COVID happened, they had to resort to Facebook to get the word out and get them tithes and offerings, right? And so you don't hear people say that Facebook is the devil now, because that is a platform that was used to get the word out. So I don't think that it's going to be bad. It's about the previous generation making it right, exposing it, telling the truth about it. But to us, it's like we're joining forces with them. Yeah. So I would say we need to correct it. It's us that need to correct it.
To answer that question, how do you hurt someone when you're hurting? A while back, like he said, just becoming relatable. Just this person is looking towards you for some help. So in my mind, I'm like, let me be my best self so they can feel better. Because I'm the type of person, I mean, I know it's okay to be sad, mad, angry, feeling all those emotions. But I'm the type of person I like to be around positive energy. So I try to do anything to make somebody else feel better. So I just, it's just all about ways to, put your stuff to the side, like he said, and thinking, what can I do to make them feel better at the end of the day?
I will say to that, that you definitely have to know your capacity. Often we try to carry other people's burdens or issues and so on, but at some point you have to be honest with yourself enough to know that you don't have the capacity for it. And anytime it becomes a mental strain to you and it starts wearing on you, you don't need to be helping anybody. Help yourself. Jesus said, save yourself. Oh, shoot. But no, really, just knowing capacity and knowing the capacity that you carry for other people and even the capacity that other people carry for you. You don't have to be everybody's answer. You don't have to be everybody's salvation. Jesus already came and died. So we don't need another savior.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I like that you said that because I was going to say, is it okay if I'm not all right to be like, not right now? I can't help you right now because I got to get myself together. Because I know in the professional sense, we learn to put our feelings off and to help, but everybody can't do that, so.
I don't know what professional spot you're in, okay? But in my professional spot, anything like, and I can be real about this. I'm not a big person on suicidal ideations, right? Somebody is exhibiting any type of self-harm and stuff like that. I'm not the one that really go deep in it. It has to be something very minor in order for me to do it.
Yeah.
And not because I can't do it, it's because my sympathy and my empathy is just not there.
Right.
And you have to know your biases, because if you don't know your biases, they will show up in how you treat someone.
Yes.
So you have to know, and I'm talking about your conscious biases as well as your unconscious ones. And so if I don't feel comfortable doing it, I'd be like, no, I can't do it. This week I've had 2 students that have been doing some self-harm, right? And the notes that I've had to write has been very extensive. However, I've let my clinical supervisor know that it's a possibility somebody else might have to pick this up because, you know, I'd be like, so, I mean, why you want to kill yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I need to be careful when I say the K word, unlive yourself. I like to keep it professional, so unlive yourself. So if at any moment that you feel like you are overwhelmed with your own stuff, you can't help anyone.
Yeah.
You can't help anyone. And I like to relate things. So I relate that to when you're flying on the airplane and the stewardess says when the oxygen mask falls down, put yours on first, then help someone else.
Yes.
And so I always tell people, you have to put your mask on first.
Yeah.
And then you can help someone else, because if you help someone else and you run out of oxygen, you're gone.
Yeah. I think that's what I was getting at is we're kind of aware, you know, we know most of the time, you know, sometimes they come up, but I know what my no areas are. For me, like grief, I cannot, because I'm going to be crying on the couch with you. But, you know, everybody is not taught that. So I do like that y'all are telling them that you don't have to be everything to everybody.
And if I could add, because that just takes us back to that question that you asked, something that at my worst point that if I knew now, if you don't help people, somebody else will. If you don't counsel, somebody else will. If you're not available to lend, they will find somebody else to do it. Because ultimately it comes down to people are going to find a way to survive, regardless. Now, if it's like a friend or someone that you care about, you know, you want to be there for them. But if you can't, they will find somebody that will. They will cope. They will get through it. So taking that time to really heal for yourself is very important. And if I could tell anybody that, I just keep telling them, you know, you don't have to be so selfish that you become unempathetic, as you said, but you do need to care about yourself enough to realize, like, you know, you only have one body. You only get one mind. You know, rest, recuperate, heal, go through the journey, navigate the emotions, because people will figure it out. And somebody said it, once you get to a certain age, it is your responsibility and yours alone to figure it out.
Sometimes people don't even look for an answer. Sometimes you just, you know, sometimes people want to talk to you for you to hear them out. They just need to let it out and talk to somebody. And that piggybacked to what he said, listening to understand and not to respond. Some people don't want a response. They just want to, let all their problems out, and they just feel like you the safe space to do it.
Yeah.
What words of advice or alternatives would you give people that use drugs and alcohol to cope with their mental health?
As they think about this answer, I'm going to let you guys know that this may be our last question because I want to be respectful of my panelists' time. Do we have a lot more questions?
Just 2 more.
2 more. We'll pick your favorite one after that. We'll take
One answer.
Huh? No, y'all don't want. Okay, go ahead. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My panelists said they have all the time in the world. So let's do it. Daryl, can you read the question one more time?
We're going to have one answer, amen? What words of advice or alternatives would you all give the people that use drugs and alcohol to cope with their mental health?
First of all, if you are struggling, feel free to reach directly out to me. My Facebook is Patrick Gibson, and we could talk. We can meet. I'm an open book when it comes to that stuff, and I could talk for hours about it. But I'm gonna try to make it quick. It really comes down to how hard you want it, and if you want it, then reach out to the 12-step program or your church or a doctor. They can really point you in the right direction. There's also rehab groups. There's me, and a lot of churches around here actually have their own rehabilitation groups and accountability groups. But I will tell you right now, because I said I could talk for hours about it. It is the best decision that I've ever made in my life. It changed everything for me. So again, my Facebook is Patrick Gibson. If you want to reach out and talk, that's really all I can say on it.
Okay. The next question is, what would you say to your younger self? No. If you could go back and give your younger self advice about mental health, what would you say?
We already answered this question, guys, but
Okay.
I do have one that did not. Who didn't answer that question?
Well, I would consider myself still young. So to my younger self, what would I say? It kind of reverts. It reverts to a gospel song that I listen to a lot. No, I can't sing, but I listen to it from time to time, and it was the gospel song. It won't always be like this. So, I mean, whenever you down, I just revert back to that song. It won't always be like this. So, if you ain't ever heard it, go listen to it.
How do you separate the Superman from Clark Kent? And when the cape is off, how do you digress from when having the cape on?
So when I talk about this, I always talk about men being in a brave space. And I know it's just not for men, but anyone who feel like they have to wear the cape all the time and they want to take the cape off, you have to be in a brave space, right? And I usually call it a safe space. But the reason why I changed it to a brave space because you just have to show up. Just like I remember you saying something about, you really rely on your wife and God, right? Because you don't really trust people. And so one thing that I would say to you is find out where trust was broken. Because there's so many other people, and you don't want to put that much weight on your spouse. Because then it becomes a lot of weight that she has to carry. She always carrying a lot of weight as her wife. So then she has to be your therapist. She has to be all these other things. And so I always say that when it comes to taking the cape off, you have to be brave. You have to be brave. You have to be open. You have to be honest with yourself. And when you open and honest with yourself, even with addiction, once you open and honest with yourself, everything else will start to fall off. You just got to find out where the root of it so you can cut it off and it won't grow anymore. So that's what it is about taking that cape off. You got to take the cape off being brave. Like, I'm ready now. And you got to know what you're ready for. So one thing I would definitely say to men, especially if you feel like you don't have a certain person to go to or someone you can feel trustworthy of, journal. And I know it's not something that men like to do, but I promise you, if you start journaling, you will start releasing some of those things that is holding you, because you'll feel much lighter. And then you will start understanding that I can really trust over there, because now you can see, now you can feel, now you can discern. And so I say it's all about being brave. Just be brave.
And I know you said journal. Can you tell us how to journal? How do we do that?
So the way I started off journaling, I just started talking about how I feel in the moment, right? If something make me upset, I talk about what made me upset and how I wish I could feel. And then, of course, I went to therapy the very first time when I was married. And in those sessions, she taught me how to use I terms. So I learned how to talk directly to my ex-wife. I would use I feel hurt when you, because it didn't create the argument, it create dialogue. So now we got dialogue, and now we're not, well, you always and you never, because I'm pretty sure you can think of a time that person did do it, right? And so I learned how to do that. And so now when I'm journaling, most of the time I'm journaling about what went on that day, or if something really made me happy, or my expectations on this next thing, because I'm always expecting something great. Like I even expect something great today for me showing up for here, right?
Love it.
So I always walk with expectations. I always tell people I'm a money magnet, so wherever I go, I don't have to work for money. Money will always find me. Yeah. It will always find me wherever I go. I feel like I've been a therapist all my career of doing hair for 30 plus years. I feel like I've been a therapist, and I feel like God equipped me to do this, right? And so I just had to go and get the credentials so that I can charge those insurance companies. But other than that, I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. Anyone that needs to talk, actually, I got something that is brewing right now. I'm trying to get it started, but I want to bring mental health therapy sessions to the salon. So I want, while I'm doing your hair, for me to give you therapy, right? And so again, I need brave people, not people who feel like they have to put up a facade or they don't want to really talk. I want some people who say, I'm broken and I need help to fix these pieces back together. And we can't get the cracks out, but we can definitely put it together with some glue and some tape and some prayer and all that good stuff.
Everything. Okay? I love it. I love it. I know Delano and my grandmother worked together when I was a little girl, and they were right beside each other. And I can remember Delano counseling the ladies while he was doing their hair. So he has been a counselor forever. But I do want to thank you guys for joining me tonight and participating in just breaking the stigma in our community. And I want to thank everybody for joining us, as well as my overseer and the Well Church for allowing me to use this space for this event. We do have more coming up, so if you would like to join, please inbox me. There's not many stipulations, but we can discuss them if you are interested. And I also want to thank you guys for reaching out to me for help and just asking me questions. Like I always say, I'm not going to give you like advice, but I will help you find a professional that can help you as you start your mental health journey. So that's all for today, and I'll see you guys in about a month. Thank you.